Thank you so much for the invitation and for the opportunity to speak in front of all of you. My name is Sebastian, and I work for Exit, a non-government organization based in Stockholm, Sweden. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we work, but mostly about the recent trends that we have seen when it comes to radicalization in the country of Sweden. We do work with clients very closely. We're practitioners, so we try to help individuals that have left or are trying to leave radical groups. Our observations are based on information that we have received from the relevant Swedish authorities that we are in contact with, and mostly from our client interactions. We get to know these clients very well. We get to learn about their history, and we're also many times in close contact with their relatives. Just quick little history here about Exit as an organization. It got started in the late 1990s, so we've been around for almost 30 years. It was started during that period because there was a big problem in Sweden of skinhead racism, which was a thing not only in Scandinavia but other parts of Europe during this time. With time, Exit developed in order to work with different forms of radicals, whether it's ideological, political, or religious. Today we work with all of them. And Exit also branched out to a sibling organization that focused on helping former criminals leave organized crime. So we have experience in this area as well, but our main job is with former radicals. When speaking about extremism in Sweden, one has to mention a very tragic incident that happened in the city of Örebro earlier this year in early February. We had the biggest mass killing attack in the country's history, where 10 people lost their lives, and then the gunman also took his own life. All the victims in this attack were of immigrant background, and the place of the attack was a school that specifically teaches Swedish to immigrants. So the landscape of the discourse around violent extremism has changed a lot since this has been a very dark milestone in Sweden's history when it comes to this topic. So the first trend I want to talk about is the increased activity of lone actors. The perpetrator in the attack in Örebro was also a lone actor. As a matter of fact, most of the individuals that we work with that either have performed or plan to perform attacks lately, they've been lone actors, usually radicalized online without much social interaction with other radicals in a physical space. A lot of these people also belong to the gaming communities that we've been hearing about these last few days. And the problem is that these individuals are extremely hard to detect since they don't share a lot of information with people around them. When they do, it's like what Michael touched on. It's our experience also that it goes to direct family members. But many times they're completely quiet about their activities. And the only way really to increase the chance of detection is to increase the level of surveillance. So it becomes a negotiation between us as to what do we want to do. How much privacy do we want, and how much do we want to increase our probabilities of detecting these type of lone actors. So it's a conundrum as far as how to increase our chances of stopping this in the future. The second trend I want to mention is the revival of physical groups. This is actually reminiscent of what we did see in the 90s with these skinhead gangs that used to meet up. Now we've seen a phenomenon called active clubs that also meet up physically. They train martial arts together. At times, these groups are affiliated with football teams, so they're basically hooligan supporters. they usually have a very nationalistic ideology, neo-Nazi ideology, and when they attack people, they usually do so as a group, and they specifically target immigrant victims. A lot of the older membership in these groups are, before being active in this area, they have a history of crime, many of them. The recruits are usually very young, young to middle teenage. And we've seen that people belonging to similar groups that fell on hard times, like, for example, NMR, which is the National Resistance Movement, an older neo-Nazi Swedish group that had a hard time recruiting. We see that some of these people from these environments are moving over to the active clubs, which are now, they have a lot of momentum. One thing that we've seen, though, that's rather interesting with these type of groupings is that they do serve a function in that they don't want their members to become too crazy, because that's obviously going to jeopardize the survival of the group. So they're radical, but they don't want to be too radical, because it's going to have negative consequences for them. A third trend here is what I call online sects. This has been spoken about. A gentleman by the name of, I think, Suraj spoke about them when he mentioned the 764 sect. It would fall in this category. Another known name is NLM, No Lives Matter. Obviously a play on Black Lives Matter. But this type of sect is rather new to us. It's something that we've been seeing more and more of the last year and a half. They have a very loose structure. They cross international borders. They don't even have a leader per se. Instead, it's individuals trying to influence each other to commit acts of violence. Their goal seems to be to destabilize society as much as possible, almost aiming for a form of anarchy. They prey on very weak victims, as the presenter also covered, targeting children, and also with violent physical attacks, elderly people. They are very nihilistic in their outlook as far as morals and the things that shape their ideology. You can see traces of Satanism. There really is, it's like they're a very confused group. So when it comes to the radicalization, it's almost like they went to a buffet and you have all these options. Like for lunch, we might pick a sandwich and some salad. These guys are like Islamophobia, Satanism, esoteric Hitlerism, you know, let's throw this together. So it becomes very illogical, their whole belief system, but also they're not very logical people belonging to this sect. But we find them as extremely hard to predict and hard to calculate just because of their unorthodox methods. So to summarize the trends here a little bit, we see that in Sweden right now they're becoming increasingly far-right, more and more xenophobic, very anti-immigration. Their whole idea is they want to keep Sweden as Swedish as possible, obviously according to their own definition of what it means to be Swedish, which doesn't include room for a lot of pluralism, or people like me for that matter. But this is one of their main driving motivators. They're very conspiratorial also in their worldview. And one thing that we've seen, I think this is rather interesting, also a very recent observation, clients that we've been dealing with basically like the last calendar year, we've seen some of these right-wing neo-Nazi people also adapt religion into their ideas, usually very obscure forms of Christianity, reminiscent of Ku Klux Klan theology, for example. So they try to racialize Christianity. So they're trying to merge basically neo-Nazism ideas with their understanding of what Christianity could be as a form, it's a way of justifying their ideology in a sense. And even the No Lives Matter group who are in general very anti-religion across the board. They hate everybody. Even them bringing in Satanism is interesting because it's still related to metaphysics, and for them, ironically enough, something they borrowed from the Abrahamic tradition, you know. But I think this is worth mentioning because usually when we speak in these type of forums, and in literature and in general, when speaking of extremism, we like to categorize it very broadly as Islamic extremism, extreme right, left, as if the Islamic one is the only one that has a religious component here, indicating to some maybe even that the religion could be a cause of the problem for this particular group. But now we're seeing a more wider use of religion as a way to basically justify ideology. Last thing here on trends, I'll cover some quick demographics. When it comes to the age, we see that they are just becoming younger and younger by a lot. We've had clients who have been as young as 13, 14 years old, and some of them even planning these type of attacks. We can see that mental illness and neuropsychiatric disabilities are a major common denominator, talking about things like autism and ADHD and so forth. Geographically, we can't really see a pattern in Sweden right now. It's pretty evenly spread out, I would say. One interesting thing there here to mention is that we've had several individuals with nationalistic neo-Nazi ideology who themselves have immigrant backgrounds, who might have one or two parents that are immigrants, which seems extremely paradoxical. If I say Swedish right-wing nationalist, you probably picture a pretty blonde guy with blue eyes and all this stuff. Some of these guys don't fit that profile whatsoever, which has its explanations, but time is very short now here, so I won't go into it. I'll finish up with just some recommendations. First point is that I think that working close to clients in some capacity is very important. They're a great resource for information. They're usually not shy at all to talk about why they choose the path that they chose, what made them meet up with these people, what made them interested, what happened before in their lives that shaped them. And another point mentioning before finishing here is what I call the dilemma of media coverage. We obviously have a responsibility to inform people about dangerous groups and threats to society. I think that we've seen, though, is that when talking about a specific group, for example, active clubs, they start writing about it in mainstream newspapers, we see a spike in their membership. So it becomes a good recruiting tool for some of these groups when they're mentioned in a specific way, in a specific context. So it's just a thing that I think we have to be very strategic about and clever about when discussing, and how are we going to inform the public about this great danger while not doing the group in question a favor at the same time. Thank you very much.